All right, so we've learned how to go from molecules or atoms to moles. However, that's not really helpful in a practical application. The real secret here is how we go from grams to moles. So let's go back to our egg example. Before we had 121 kilograms of eggs. And then what we said was 1 dozen eggs is 0.720 kilograms of eggs. And then that's how many we got, right? We got 168 dozen eggs. In the previous example, we went on to go to individual eggs. So we multiplied that by 12. But here we're going to stop at dozen eggs. And that's what we're going to do in chemistry too. The vast majority of times, we're going to stop at moles. The reason that we stop at moles is because it's a nice number. It's not that, some number times 10 to the 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th, right? It's not a huge number. So this is generally where we're going to stop. And so you can see the key step here is converting from a number, a dozen, to the mass of something. And so that's what we're going to do here. We're going to go from grams to moles and vice versa. That's the same thing that we're doing right here with dozen, right? Mass to dozen, dozen to mass. Here, grams to moles, moles to grams. So let's take a look at example. You have 14.0 grams of copper. How many moles do you have? Right, and you can see that's the same as the question above where we went from kilograms to dozen. Now we're going from grams to moles. So we have 14.0 grams. And so we know grams is going to go right down in that bottom area. And then we know we want moles. And so this is going to be a one-step conversion. So I know that I'm going to want moles up here. And so the value that we're looking for has a conversion of moles to grams or grams to moles. And where we find this is the periodic table. So let's take a look at our handy dandy periodic table. And then in this case, we're talking about copper. So we're just going to find copper on our periodic table. It's right there. And then you can see the number right under copper, that's 63.546. Orient myself here. That's going to be our unit that we're going to want. So this is what's known as the molar mass, right? Earlier we learned it about as the mass of the atom, but it's also going to be our molar mass. And so what this number means that it's 63.546 grams in 1 mole. And so it's the perfect conversion unit to go from grams to moles. So we can write that as 63.546 grams over 1 mole. Or we could write that as 1 mole over 63.546 grams, right? So if you want 1 mole of copper, you need to weigh out exactly 63, or not exactly, but you need to weigh out approximately 63.546 grams. In the case of our example, we've got grams down on the bottom. So we're going to want to use this one right here. And so this would then be 63.546. Up here goes 1 mole. And then we just do the math and round to the correct number of sig figs, and we get 0.220 moles. And generally in chemistry, we stop there. We could go straight to atoms, but it doesn't really provide us any extra information and just makes the number unnecessarily large. So we stay with a mole. And so when you have a mass of atoms or a mass of molecules, you know exactly how many moles you have. And thus, since you know exactly how many moles, you know exactly how many of those individual pieces that you have. We could go all the way to moles if we wanted, or to molecules, right? 1 mole, 63.546 grams. And then if we wanted to go to atoms, we could, right? 1 mole is equal to 6.022 times 10 to the 23 atoms. And then you'd get 1.33 times 10 to the 23rd atoms of copper. But generally, again, we stop at moles.